Hey guys, are you ready to make some awesome chocolate chip cookies with me? Let's get started. Hey guys, let's turn that oven on to 400. We're going to be baking some thick and chewy chocolate chip cookies. I am going to be creaming my butter here. Now I am quadrupling the recipe. That's why I'm using a really big bowl, and it may look different from what you do when you make these cookies if you make them. So next I'm adding in the brown sugar. I like to use light brown sugar. It just kind of like goes with the whole chocolate chip cookie feel, and I feel like when I use the dark, they come out a little bit too caramelly or something. I don't know. These just are perfect though. And now I'm going to add in the vanilla once that's creamed, and then I'm going to add in my eggs, and I'm going to add them in one at a time. If you're only making the single recipe, you're probably going to just use one egg, but I'm using 4 because I'm quadrupling it again. Now I'm going to have the recipe listed below for the ones that I make. I think they're fabulous. People ask for them every year. And honestly, another secret to this is if you're going to make them the way that I do, which is thick and chewy, don't use the small scooper like I'm using here. I'm using the small scooper so that I could make more of them, but really double scoop it. Use the really big scoop and give out really big cookies, and it really wows them. Okay, so I've got my all-purpose flour here, and I'm adding in my baking soda and my salt, and I just whisk that together and make sure that those are all combined. And then I'm going to add it little by little to the creamed mixture. Not all at once, because it'll just make a humongous mess, and you just want to add it little by little. So we're going to do that next. So yeah, when I started making these, I made them using the really big ice cream scooper, and then I went to the smaller one because I couldn't make that many, and I have to give out so many more these days, and it just made more sense to use the smaller scooper. They're still fantastic, but if you really want to wow them, use the big one. But they are really rather good. I like mine frozen. All right, so I'm just going to keep on doing this, adding a little bit at a time. Another thing that I'm going to do at the end of this video is I'm going to answer some of the questions you might have as far as troubleshooting your cookie recipes. Maybe they're spreading, maybe they're not rising, maybe this, maybe that, and we're going to talk about that as soon as I get done making these. So you might wonder, why am I not using that KitchenAid that's sitting there? Because quadrupling the recipe, it just made a humongous mess, and so I use a big bowl. I can just do it so much better. All right, this is the fun part, adding the chips, and I add walnuts. So you may or may not want to use the tree nuts, but I want to tell you, if you can at all use the walnuts, oh my goodness, it really adds a lot to this recipe and to these cookies to do the walnuts. So far, we only have had, I make these for our clients, and we've only had like one office that, requested no walnuts. And that's like over 10 years of making these cookies. So it's not very often, but some people really can't have them. And so I always label them whenever I give them out to anybody that there are walnuts in it, just to make sure that nobody, has them unknowingly and then maybe has a reaction. But okay, so here I have my cookie sheets, and I have a silicone baking pads. These are from IKEA, and I'm just using an ice cream scooper to put down here. These are small. Again, if you really want to wow somebody, use the big ones, but these are still going to wow them. Don't get me wrong. They are so good. Now, if I can find a link, I'm not sure if IKEA is still selling these, but if they still sell these, I will put the link below. These are very, very helpful because it really spaces them out just perfectly. If I'm using the smaller scoop, it spaces them absolutely perfectly. Now, when some of them cook, there are a few that will touch and kind of like mold together, but I just take this plastic spatula and I just cut between them, and honestly, nobody minds, if they see a little flat cut on one side of the cookie. It is just absolutely just as delicious as the ones that are perfectly round. But these are really wonderful pads, and I really like them a lot. And now it's time to put them into the oven. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my timer for 7 minutes, And then I'm going to come over. Now that's different from the recipe. The recipe wants you to cook them for like, I think 6 to 8 minutes total. But I have done this for so long and I'm finding that I cook them for 7 minutes and then I switch them in different shelves. And I'm going to set the timer for 4 more minutes. So that's what, 8, 9, 10, 11 minutes total. And I've cooked cookies a lot in my life. I actually used to be kind of like a lunch lady, and so I made like hundreds of them. And so switching them while they're cooking really evens out the temperature and the baking, the way that they bake up and the way that they brown. And so here they are. What I'm going to do is very important to leave them to continue cooking on the trays for about 10 minutes. And then they'll start to harden up. I'm going to leave them here. Once they're cooled enough, about 10 minutes or so, I will take a spatula and then gently take them and put them on some cooling racks, right? So here it is. It's not bendy or anything like that. So it's just firm enough to put on the racks, and now they can really cool down. They'll probably cool in about 20 minutes or so, and I'll start packing them up a bit. But look at these. They came out absolutely perfect. When you first get them out, you might think that they are a little underdone. Don't be fooled. They will, those will be chewy and soft, but they're baked. They're good. All right, some of the questions you might have about cookies, what makes them soft and chewy, for instance, it's the high moisture in the recipe. The baking time and the temperature must be adjusted to retain the moisture. So binding water in butter, eggs, and brown sugar, it contains molasses, which is 10% water, with flour slows for its evaporation. The dough needs a little extra flour, which makes it stiffer. The stiff dough spreads less liquid evaporates, and the cookies are thicker. Mass also helps cookies stay moist. Big dollops of dough make softer and chewier cookies than tiny spoonfuls of dough. Bake these thick cookies for a shorter time at a high temperature to firm them quickly and minimize spreading. Most important, don't bake them too long. Remove from the oven when the cookie rim is brown and at least 1/3 of the center top remains pale. The cooked centers will be soft. Why are some cookies cake-like instead of chewy? A little extra liquid in the cookie dough from water, egg, or milk makes the dough more elastic and adds steam as the cookies bake, making them puff more. All right, what makes a cookie crisp and crunchy? Reducing the amount of ingredients that hold moisture. Flour, egg, brown sugar makes it easy for liquid to evaporate, producing crisp cookies. The fat, which goes up proportionately when other ingredients are cut back, gets hotter than the water in the dough and drives out the moisture. Fat also makes the dough softer and melts when hot, making the cookies spread. For crispiness, bake cookies longer at a lower temperature to give them more time to spread before they firm. Then bake long enough to dry and brown them evenly to develop the maximum toasty flavor and crisp texture throughout. What makes cookies spread as they bake? Well, most often the culprit is a low-fat butter or margarine spread, which has about 20% more water used in place of regular butter or margarine. It's the extra liquid that's causing the problem. Low-fat products can't be used interchangeably with regular fats for baking without recipe adjustments. Cookies also spread when you drop high-fat dough onto a hot baking sheet. The heat melts the dough and the cookies spread before they're baked enough to hold their shape. When others follow my recipe for chocolate chip cookies, they turn out crunchy, mine turn out chewy. Why? The way they measure ingredients and the real temperature of their ovens are the usual reasons cooks get different results from the same recipe. Flour should be stirred to loosen and fluff it, then spooned gently into a dry measure cup, the kind you'll fill to the rim, and the top scraped level. If you tap the cup or scoop the flour from the bag, the flour gets packed down and you can easily add 2 to 4 extra tablespoons of flour per cup. You can scoop up white sugar, it doesn't pack, but you should firmly pack brown sugar into a dry measure cup and scrape the top level. Dry ingredients should not be measured in heaped up cups or spoons. Scrape dry ingredients level with the surface of the measuring tool. Measure liquid ingredients with liquid measuring, usually glass or plastic, cups. If your cookies bake faster or slower than the recipe indicates they should, chances are your oven thermostat isn't registering accurately. It's a good idea to double check oven temperature with a thermometer and adjust oven setting as needed. Thanks for making some great cookies with me today. I hope you enjoyed the extra helpful information. The information comes from a Sunset December 1995 article that they ran on making and finding the perfect chocolate chip cookie for you. Take a look down in the description bar for all the tips on how you can make just the kind that you like, whether it's thick and chewy or thin and crunchy. Thick, crunchy, or thin, crisp, and chewy chocolate chip cookies. It's all down below. I hope you like and subscribe to get more helpful information. Have a great day.